Good morning, y'all. It's Marvin. Hope all is going well for you. As always, make sure you hit the bell to get notifications, subscribe, like, give us a review, pass it on to your friends so that as you are blessed, others may be blessed as well. We appreciate your faithful support and love the opportunity to serve. So today what I wanted to talk to you about is simple faith, and that being the thing that God desires. There's a scripture in Luke chapter 4 where Jesus gives to the Jews two examples of faith that he loves and that he expects from his people. The first one is the widow of Zarephath, and the second is Naaman the Syrian. His story to me stuck out in particular to share. So in the Old Testament, in 2 Kings, Naaman is the Syrian commander of the Syrian army, second under the king of Syria, who is often at strife with the northern kingdom of Samaria of Israel. And Naaman, in one of the raids that the Syrians performed in Israel, acquired an Israelite servant. So he has this servant girl, and Naaman also, in spite of the fact that he's a mighty warrior and a great commander, he has leprosy. And leprosy in this day, it's an incurable disease. It's a death sentence, a slow and painful death sentence. With no one to heal him, that's his sentence. But his Israelite servant, funny enough, says, "If only you were in Samaria, for there is a prophet of God there that could heal you." So long story short, the Syrian king sends Naaman, along with a caravan of gifts and money and talents and clothing and linen and other things, to the king of Samaria, and he says, "Hey, see to it that my servant is healed." The king, thinking that there's going to be some kind of quarrel that the king of Syria is trying to start with him, the king of Samaria tears his clothes and he's afraid, saying, "Oh man, see how this guy's wanting to fight with me." But Elisha intervenes, the prophet of God, and Naaman comes to his house, and Elisha doesn't even go out to meet him, but says, "All you need to do is go to the Jordan River and dip 7 times and you'll be made clean." So Naaman storms away angry, and you get the feeling that it's because maybe there's some sort of anti-Semitic feeling in his heart, because he says, "Man, are not the Abana and the Pharpar, the rivers in Damascus, way better than the stinky Jordan River over here that the Jews have?" And as he is about to leave without a miracle and without a cure, his servant says to him, "If he would have asked of you something really hard to do, wouldn't have you have done that? So why, when he has told you something easy, do you turn away?" Listening to better judgment from his people, Naaman goes and he dips 7 times and he's made clean. And he comes back to the prophet and he tries to give him all of these gifts. And he says, "Here, take this money, take this clothes, take all of this stuff." And the prophet of God says, "No, that's not how this works." I think a lot of so-called prophets today online could really take a page from that book personally, but he gives him nothing because he refuses to accept anything. And then Naaman says, "Well, there is one other thing." So Elisha says, "What is it?" He says, "Well, my master, the king, is an old man and he's weak. So when we go into the house of Ramon," that's the deity that the Syrians worship, "and he goes to bow, he has to lean on my shoulder and I have to sort of let him down. But I now know that there is no God except the God in Israel, and I will never worship another." He says, and in a sense he's asking, is Yahweh okay with this? And Elisha says, "Go in peace." And he says, "I have one other request. I would like to take 2 camel loads full of dirt back home," which is like, especially to our mind in the 21st century, why do you want dirt? But for the ancient Near Eastern person, their view was that every separate dominion, every separate city-state or nation-state, if you will, was under the dominion of a different God. To be in right relationship to the God of that place, I have to be in that place. Well, Naaman is a Syrian. He's never going to be able to come for pilgrimage feasts. He's never going to be able to come to present himself before the Lord. And we never read that he gets circumcised, although maybe he did. But what he does say is, "I want to be near the God of Israel, so maybe I can take Israel home with me." And he has simple faith. There's a lot of things about Torah maybe that he doesn't have, but what he does have is belief that the God of the universe is who he says he is, and that there is no one else like him, that there's no one else beside him, and that Yahweh has his believing, loving loyalty for the rest of his life. Do you have that simple faith? That simple faith in Luke 4, Jesus gives as an example of something that he loves. Maybe you lack many other things, but to lack the faith in Jesus is something that you can't go without and still be a believer. Believe God's words. Believe who Jesus says he is. Be completely convinced of him and rest in that. Go with God, and may God be with you. Blessings and peace. Naaman.